Welcome to Pleasant Mountain Preserve, owned by Luneco Land Trust here in Bridgeton, Maine. This is our largest preserve at 2,100 acres, has about 10 miles of hiking trails, and spectacular world-class views that you'll see today. Pleasant Mountain is the highest mountain in southern Maine at 2,000 feet. It's constantly underestimated. It's still a vigorous hike, and you should be prepared when you come to Pleasant Mountain and expect changes in weather and conditions. These trails are not perfect, but we do our very best, but you're still in a backwoods scenario here. So you have come to the Ledges Trail, which I would say is our most popular, most visited trail. It sees tens of thousands of hikers every year of all ages and abilities, and a lot of beginners, or a lot of folks that are elderly and they're not going to take on the Appalachian Trail anymore. They like to come here. It's a hike they can do in one day with, again, incredible views, great workout. This is a real social opportunity for a lot of folks, and we appeal to a lot of retirees because of our proximity to Portland and Boston. Maine is certainly all granite, no exceptions here. The trail's about 1.5 miles. It's about a 1,300-foot elevation gain. The trail is, I would consider, a moderate to difficult trail depending on one's condition. It's a very typical backcountry scenario. When you get up to the first lookout on the what was known as the Ledges Overlook, you'll be looking south-southeast, so you'll be looking towards the ocean. You'll see Sebago Lake, you'll see Moose Pond, you'll see many area bodies of water that people come to play on and visit. So at the top of the mountain, when you get to the end, you'll be on the state of Maine's land. It is a small chunk, I believe it's 20 acres that they've retained, and they have a lookout tower there. And the lookout tower was built in the 20s for, observing for fires. It has been there in service even in the Second World War. Kids were there to look for German bombers at one time as part of their public service as camp counselors. And so it has a really interesting history, but the views are world-class of the Saco River Valley. And you will see Mount Washington, the Presidential Mountains, the White Mountains of Maine and New Hampshire. So it's a dramatic setting, and the fact that there is nothing really between Pleasant Mountain and the White Mountains except the Saco River Valley, and nothing on this side except the ponds and eventually the ocean, it's very isolated. So you have incredible vantage points from every end of the mountain. Land trusts play a significant role in Maine and access to Maine because Maine is considerably privately owned. About 95% of Maine is privately owned, which means there aren't as many federal lands or state lands compared to some other states. So the role that land trusts play is really critical in allowing people to come here and have these wonderful experiences, whether it's hunting, fishing, or swimming, or what have you. Luneco has been in existence since 1987, and we started off with just a couple hundred acres and a couple conservation easements, and now we protect nearly 10,000 acres in this area that is under very heavy development pressure. Land trusts aren't anti-development, but we're trying to strike a balance, and they're not making any new land. And if we can continue to bring folks here to Maine, this is our largest economy. But we also have to set aside, lands for air and water protection and habitat protection. And it's a balance. I think that describes what we do the most. It's an awesome responsibility to have all this land. We have constant credit from the folks that come here. They reach out to us, they tell us how it changed their lives or their families' lives or their children's lives. And that means a lot to know that a lot of people really resonate with what we do, and they support us as a result. This is about taking care of this property for the future. Everything we do is for the future. So I have to get up in the morning and think about, not today or tomorrow necessarily, but 50 or 100 years from now, what our impact is going to be. This may be the only green space in this area of these places that we've protected. And for quality of life and all aspects of that, it's critical that we do our work and have the support of the community. And being a nonprofit, that's how we survive. Maine, to me, it's an experience. I've always been proud to live here. I had to get away for a while to, make sure that I wasn't missing out on something, but I was anxious to come back to Maine in my 20s, and this is where I chose to raise my family. It's a blessing to live in Maine, and it's not always easy. The winters are long. You're under pressure all the time to meet the next season. I wouldn't trade it for anything, and I wouldn't live anywhere else.